Welcome to the 3026 breakdown. I am Jon Lee, and today I want to talk about Ronda Rousey and how much I really don't like her based on my real life experience with her and the way that she presents herself and kind of lives her life. So let's get into it. So, believe it or not, I actually trained with Rhonda back in 2010, 2011 at a small gym called Dynamix Mixed Martial Arts in Santa Monica, run by former MMA fighter and UFC fighter Anthony Hardonk and Hickson Gracie black belt Henry Akins. At the time, there were only like 10 Hickson Gracie black belts. And Rhonda showed up at our gym sometime around 2010 and 2011. It was before they switched to their new location where they're at now, and I don't remember whenever that was, but they were still in their location off of like 13th Street and yeah, like Wilshire. So this was a while ago, and she showed up and she started coming to striking classes, and she sparred with us, and she was teaching a judo class for a little while, and a couple of things became pretty obvious. She also started dating Henry Akins, and then eventually ended up dumping him live on Showtime at I think one of the Strikeforce Challenger shows, or maybe after she won the title. I don't remember the exact timeline, but so she showed up, and there were a couple of pros there already, Gabe Rodiger and Kamal Shalers. And if I'm lying, I'm flying. You can check this stuff with Gabe, Anthony, Henry. Um, this stuff all happened. So she used to really like run down Gabe about being like a journeyman. And Gabe, Gabe is not the nicest guy, wasn't always super nice to me, but he tried really hard and had a respectable career. That was a guy who fought during the dark ages, never made a lot of money, and worked his ass off to support his family and is worthy of respect. And she used to just run him down. Same thing with Kamal, and just talking about how she's like a big superstar and how she's an intellectual. She used to say that a lot, and she used to talk about how smart she was. She's like really weird. It would be like out of context. Like we'd be having a conversation about something else, and then she'd start talking about how smart she was. It was very strange. Anthony did not like her at all, and she actually ended up leaving because Anthony, like a lot of Dutch striking coaches, is very gruff with the praise. You don't get a lot of praise. I think in the 2 years I trained there, I got 3 positive statements from him, and I took a lot of one-on-ones. So she couldn't handle it, and she ended up leaving gyms. But she did a couple of other things. There was a sparring session where she got hit, started crying, and then quit after she was like trying to bully guys like Kamal and other people. I was in a training session where she got kicked in the face and started crying and also quit, and that was in a regular general class. So that was weird. Then she taught this judo class, and there were these two little twins that were there. They were like in their 20s. They kind of look like the Sklar twins. I think they might even be comedians too. They were really nice guys, but they were really small. They were probably like 5'1", maybe. Small dudes. And everyone kind of went easy on them, like we'd all kind of, no one wanted to really beat them up too bad because they were at a disadvantage. And they were tough guys, they competed, it wasn't like we were taking it easy on them out of pity or anything. It was just, they're small dudes. You could like beat them up and keep them at distance if you wanted to. And in the judo class, she was throwing one of them around and actually separated his shoulder. And she had been told a couple times to like take it down a notch before then. Didn't care. They had to like discontinue her judo class because she kept hurting people. Um, Allegedly, that's what I heard. Um, but yeah, so a lot of stuff was going on where she was kind of just being a bully. She used to bring her dog in and just like have her dog be in the gym, in this like tiny gym, which was kind of weird. And then, obviously she had the stuff with Henry where she dumped him on TV. So I didn't have a very high opinion of her from my actual personal firsthand experience with her in classes and from the secondhand kind of scuttlebutt around the gym. So then she blows up and becomes this giant superstar, right? And I'm going, oh, I kind of remember when she was just that asshole chick at the gym. So I'm going to UFC 207 to hopefully see her lose. I don't usually watch Ronda fights. In fact, I was flying. I purposely like scheduled a trip during her Holly Holm fight because I was like, I don't want to even like get sucked into watching this shit again. I really like Kat Zingano, and I was really sad when she beat Kat so easily. So this time, though, because it's historical and because she is an important figure in MMA history, I'm going to UFC 207, and I'm really hoping she loses. I'm really hoping that I get to like soak in the schadenfreude of her like just getting mentally destroyed in front of all those people again. because that would make me super happy. But the fight is close, man. I think people are making a lot of speculation on a lot of unknowns. So let's break down the fight a little bit here, and then I'll tell you what I'm betting on and why I'm doing it. And it is not a solid betting strategy, so I do not recommend you follow my strategy, but it'll make sense when I explain it. The big thing here, I think, with this fight is what happens when they clinch. I've watched the Holly Holm fight probably 100 times. It's one of my happy places when I get really depressed by my day job, or when, some girl I like isn't texting me back, then I just put the Holly Holm fight on and everything instantly feels better. So the Holly Holm fight really was won in the clinch because Holm, when she got rocked, she used the clinch to take Ronda down, which took her out of the comfort zone. And then when she was, clinched and then taken down, she had ways to diffuse everything. So I wonder what happens when they clinch, because I think Amanda Nunes is going to get into the clinch. Either Ronda's going to be able to kind of walk through a couple punches to get to it, or Nunes might punch herself into the clinch. That's something she's done in the past, though not lately. And I think that's really going to determine what happens in this fight. And I think we've got to give Ronda an advantage in the clinch, even though I think Nunes is a better clinch fighter than Holm, who was able to use the clinch to really kind of hold herself off and keep herself safe in that fight. But you still have to favor Rousey. So I think that all of the intangibles and the weird media blackout and all that stuff are making us forget that Ronda does have that kind of superpower with the judo and the clinching and the throwing. So it wouldn't be super surprising if the first time they clinch, she hits a throw and then grabs an armbar, right? It's kind of what she does. Now, one of the strikes against Ronda, though, is that she's still training with Edmund. Like, she shut everyone out of her training camp. She went up to the woods like Rocky, but, okay, elevation, whatever. The fight's not at elevation, so, she's going to be in really good shape. I don't see this fight going 5 rounds. I'd be super shocked if this fight started the 4th round. I could see it maybe going into the 3rd, maybe, but I'd be surprised. So the elevation, whatever. She's getting away from the media, okay. But she took up Edmund, who is literally, not figuratively, the worst coach in MMA. And, come at me, bro. Truth is a defense to claims of libel, and you are literally the worst coach in high-level MMA. So that's not good, right? Edmund's not going to be able to fix the problems. He's not going to, and he's also kind of a yes man. As I mentioned, one of the reasons that I believe she left Dynamix, and one of the reasons Anthony told me he believed she left Dynamix was because she couldn't take the criticism of her striking. And if you look at the corner audio from 193, where after getting destroyed in the first round, Edmund's telling her everything's beautiful, champ, kind of makes sense why she ended up where she ended up. On the other hand, you've got ATT, which all of a sudden is kind of running shit, right? It took Robbie Lawler to get them their first UFC title. Now Yoel Romero's on the verge of one. They got Joanna. They got Amanda Nunes. They're just kind of running shit. And that's always been one of the better camps. They're smart. They can game plan. If Greg Jackson was able to break down Ronda and find the things they needed to do for Holly Holm, I think that, Mike Brown and Laborio and those guys will be able to do the same thing. So you definitely got to think Nunes has the better coaching. And then lastly, what would a Ronda Rousey UFC 207 video be without some reckless speculation about her emotional state? Clearly, Ronda's a bully. I knew that when I was in the gym and I watched her throw dudes around and then get hit once and then cry and quit, right? That's clear bully behavior. She wants the beat down to be a one-way stream from her to you, and she fought like a bully. In the book, A Fighter's Mind, there's an interesting passage. Virgil Hunter, the guy who trains Andre Ward, he talks about being a killer, and he talks about Mike Tyson and how, was Mike Tyson really a killer because he fired his weapons out of fear, right? When Mike Tyson was in his prime, he explains that he just wanted to get you out of there because he was afraid, because he was a bully, right? Versus when he talks about Andre, Andre's firing his weapons just out of confidence. And then he just really, I really highly recommend both A Fighter's Mind and A Fighter's Heart if you're into reading books about fighting. A Fighter's Heart is about the guy Sam Sheridan. He also wrote this book, Into the Fire, or something about, he does these, gonzo journalism things where he, was a firefighter, an airborne firefighter, and then he, took a fight. He was one of the first guys to, write the, I'm a guy who's going to take a fight book. And then he went around and like interviewed guys like Randy Couture and Kenny Florian and wrote this Fighter's Mind book, which he wanted to be like a modern Musashi's. I'm sure I nailed the pronunciation of that. 5 Rings. Um, the Virgil Hunter, like it's called Witness to an Execution. It's about Andre Ward. That's how I actually learned about Andre Ward in like 2010 or something. And the whole chapter is really good, but he talks about how Ward, like in the first round of the fight, the referee looks at Andre, and for the rest of his fights, he doesn't look at Andre anymore because he just knows that he's shutting the dude down. And if you look at most of Ward's fights besides the Kovalev fight, it's pretty similar to that. So Ronda was kind of like similar. She was firing that bull rush, that like getting people out of there so quick. She was doing that because she was scared to fight and because she wanted to just kind of get it over with as quick as possible because she's a bully. So how is that going to reconcile with now she knows she can be beaten? She has that fragile confidence. I don't know, but I think that it's speculation and we don't really know what she's thinking because of the media blackout. And we're forgetting that Ronda is really good at fighting, and she also is in one of, if not the shallowest divisions ever. So I think if this happens a year ago, she's like a -1,000 favorite over Amanda Nunes, even if Amanda Nunes was coming off of beating Misha Tate. So the emotional state is a thing, but I think it's going to be something that we just can't know. So how do you factor it into your betting? I think at the end of the day, it's really a coin flip. If you are one of the sharp bettors I know who got on Nunez at +200, my hat is off to you because you were really smart. I saw lines like that at the Palms and I just was like, oh, it's probably going to get even better. So good job. For me, I'm kind of stuck in a weird place, and I've been kind of being a Hamlet of sorts on Twitter about this, whining about my conundrum about whether to bet on Rousey or Nunez. In reality, this fight's probably a stay away unless you can get really nice dog money on Nunez. Like +140 or better, I think betting on Nunez is the smart play. But I'm going to bet on Ronda Rousey, and here's why. I'd like to explain the concept of emotional hedging. This is a strategy I use when fighters I really don't like might win. So let me paint a doomsday scenario. I have a large bet on Dominic Cruz. There are many smart MMA bettors who are predicting Cody Garbrandt to get this KO. I don't agree with them, obviously. I put like a $600 bet on Dominic Cruz. But there is a possibility that Cruz gets knocked out. I lose $600, and then Ronda Rousey wins, and I'm stuck in a crowd of euphoric Ronda Rousey fans, having just lost my second biggest MMA loss of all time on a bet. So that sounds really terrible. So to kind of stave that off a little bit, I'm going to put $100 on Ronda Rousey, or $120. Ideally 120 or less. Hopefully that line will get a little closer. It looks like it's headed towards a pick'em, so I'd like to get it, as close to the pick'em price as possible, since I missed out on the Nunez dog money. And if I put money on Nunez at like mine at +110, +117, something like that, if she wins, I'll be psyched. But if she loses, I'll be really annoyed that I lost money and she lost, and I'm stuck with all these Rousey fans. So this is something I do quite a lot when there's a fighter I really don't want to win. I'll just bet on them so I don't lose twice, because the natural inclination is to kind of bet against them. Like, fuck that person, I'm going to bet against them. But then you're just mad. So I'm going to hedge here. I'm going to put like $100 on Rousey, hopefully at like, -110 or something. And if she wins, I'll be annoyed, but at least I'll get some money back. And if she loses, it's like I paid $100 for Ronda Rousey to have like the second worst night of her life. And that's something I would do every day of the week and twice on Sundays. All right, that's going to wrap up my totally legitimate and first person experience based shit talking of Ronda Rousey. I'm going to have a Periscope live from UFC 207. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to go to this Nick Diaz meet and greet at the LV Fight Shop on Friday. So if I can do that and Nick Diaz will let me Periscope with him, I'll try to do that too. But if not, I'll definitely have a bunch of them from UFC 207. And your boy is good at sneaking into better seats. So my seats are really shitty. They were not too expensive, but they were still like $150. But for this event, you can imagine that I'm in the nosebleeds, or right before the nosebleeds. So my seats are pretty shitty. I'm going to try to sneak up, and I will have some live streams for you, try to get as close as I can and, film the crowd if there's any chance or anything. So be sure to follow me on Periscope and check my Twitter. Also, both at John's Crazy Life for live streams of the event. Hopefully, Ronda will lose and I'll lose my money. For once, I am rooting against my betting interest because I really just don't want her to win. See you next time.